speakers, dear guests, dear colleagues, friends, you are all welcome to our webinar on higher education in Americas. As EURAS, Eurasian Universities Union, we are pleased to continue our EURAS regional webinars. This is Panella Basan, General Coordinator of EURAS and EURAS Summit. I'm glad to inform you that EURAS, in collaboration with several partners and member institutions, we are very pleased to offer a series of free webinars on the future of higher education and international education since the beginning of pandemic. Online event calendar can be found on EURAS website. We hope to see you at our upcoming online events as well. Next webinar on higher education in Europe will be held in January 14 in collaboration with our new partner institution, S Group, Universities in Europe. All the details will be shared with our members and our social media accounts soon. We know that we are living through very challenging times. As with many other sectors, as higher education sector, have been deeply affected by the global pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic and its effects have forced us to take some important decisions and measures. We are very proud to say that our annual conference, EURAS Summit, is growing and attracting more participants every year. However, due to the safety of our community and members, EURAS has decided to organize EURI 2021 Eurasia Higher Education Summit virtually. With challenges, of course, come opportunities. EURI Virtual Summit will make it possible to broaden our learning and engagement, and participants will have the opportunity to attend more than 50 sessions where they can improve their knowledge, share best practices and innovative approach in internationalization of higher education, as well as expand their network and collaboration opportunities at EURI Virtual Summit. Sectors leaders will also discuss upcoming trends when international education is being reimagined and shaped. You're invited to attend as exhibitor or visitor and also submit panel and presentation proposals to share best practices and innovative approaches. I'm very glad to see also my colleagues here. Ms. Ayşe Deniz Özkan, she is also joining us, who is also leading the conference program. So together with our conference committee members, we will be glad to evaluate your applications. During this webinar, we will be exploring the new trends in higher education in Americas and the impact of COVID-19 on higher education institutions planning. Our distinguished speakers will give information how has the pandemic affected the university and higher education in the incoming and outgoing mobility in their country region, the impact of COVID-19 on academic partnership, exchange programs, and the impact of COVID-19 in their overall internationalization strategy. Please be reminded that the recording will be edited and then shared on EURAS YouTube accounts as well as on our social media accounts. You can ask your questions on the Q&A box. As time and the flow of the webinar permits, we will also try to ask your questions to our guest speakers. And also, if our presence agenda allows, he will be also joining us at the last round of this webinar. So before giving the microphone to our distinguished speakers, let me introduce them to you shortly. Dr. Sonja Knutson, as an internationalization and student affairs professional and scholar, Dr. Sonja Knutson currently has a complex university-wide mandate to implement the strategic internationalization plan at Memorial University. Her current role encompasses the full spectrum of campus internationalization, enrollment management, academic development and success, pastoral care, budget development and income generation, community engagement and support, and external relations with governments, industry, and non-governmental organizations from the local to the international level. Dr. Knutson's research examines the tensions of internationalization leadership role. Dr. Tolga Türker is the director of Eurasia programs at the University of Arizona and the political science professor teaching courses for the International Security Studies program offered by the School of Government and Public Policy with a PhD from University of Cincinnati. His recent research interests include variations in authoritarian regimes and digital transformation and privatization in higher education. And our last speaker, Mrs. Liliana Alvarez-Tostado Panella, received her bachelor degree in pedagogy from Universidad Panamericana and received her master's degree in neuropsychology and education earned from Instituto Villanueva de Neuropsicología, Madrid, España, and Unidad de Postgrados en Pedagogía, Universidad. Liliana is an education professional with previous experience as a lecturer, and she has worked in many areas of international affairs. She worked as founder and director for the Language Center and International Office from 1992 till 2010. She has spent a large part of her career building partnerships and supporting higher education systems. She delivers trainings, workshops for international office staff. Liliana Alvarez is serving as Director of International Affairs at Universidad Panamericana. I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to both our speakers for accepting our invitation and joining us today at EURAS regional webinar. So I would like to start with Dr. Sonja. The microphone is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pinar. I'm thrilled to be here today on this EURAS webinar and to be working with wonderful colleagues like yourself, Liliana and Tolga. So I'm going to talk today about the Canadian context and of course focusing probably a bit more on my university, but perhaps as a representative of many Canadian universities going through this shift to supporting students and supporting internationalization through this pandemic. First, though, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge the territory in which I live and work as the ancestral unceded homelands of the Beothuk and the island of Newfoundland as the ancestral unceded homelands of the Mi'kmaq and Beothuk. And if you haven't been familiar with land acknowledgements before, this is something that all Canadian institutions, governments begin every session with this type of acknowledgement of our Indigenous peoples. So where am I talking to you from? Well, if you see the little yellow dot way on the right of your screen, I'm in St. John's, Newfoundland, right on the very east coast of Canada. And I live and work in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. As you see, it's an island and a mainland, both. In terms of my university, we have a huge reach across our province. We are the only university in the province, and we do have a special obligation to support all aspects of the development of our province. And you see we have 6 campuses, including a campus in England that is located halfway between Cambridge and London, and we use it as a field school. And just in case you're wondering, well, how big really is that province? Just to give you a sense of perspective for those of you that are in Europe, you can see I've superimposed our map over Europe. So we have about 500,000 people in the province of Newfoundland, Labrador, and you see it stretches from pretty much Ankara all the way up almost to Poland. So we're a huge territory. And in some ways, this worked for us in the sense of the switch to virtual, because as you notice, the capital city, St. John's, and the university is located on this far corner, and yet the population stretches out all the way across both the island of Newfoundland and the mainland territory of Labrador. So we did actually have a fair amount of experience with virtual learning before we went into this pandemic. Just to give you a little bit more context, I don't want to spend a lot of time, but we have just growing on 20,000 students. We have very high level of research. 40% of our research is obviously ocean related, given where we are, and 20% of our student population is actually international. So again, just to keep that in context when you think about the switch to under COVID-19. Just a quick reminder in terms of Ihe Components. So these are all the areas that did have to shift through this virtual world. So from the service to international students, so recruitment and enrollment and supports, to the international experiences of our home students, or of our Newfoundland students, international curriculum, faculty and staff, international opportunities, international research projects, institutional partnerships, external engagement. Lots of overlap between all of those. They all need to work together as pillars for an internationalization strategy. Without the ability to physically travel, many of these were put at tremendous risk, and we had to shift gears very, very quickly across the board in terms of our IHE components. But today I'm going to focus on one area, and that's the area of international students. You may have seen Canada portrayed before in these kinds of presentations, but Canada as a whole, as a federal government, looked at internationalization as a sector of trade and was really keen on the tuition dollars, the economic prosperity of international students. So that was sort of IHE pre-COVID, considered, you know, a coast to coast to coast industry, Atlantic, Pacific, and Arctic. But post-COVID was a big switch. And so how did Canada do? Well, there was, of course, we have both the federal level and the provincial levels in Canada, similar to the US, I guess, in terms of, you know, the decentralization of supports on the education side. The federal government, we were really thrilled that right away they began to show great flexibility in immigration processes. This is not something that we're used to. We're used to being annoyed with our immigration processes, but we actually had a lot of kudos to them, because we really felt like that the immigration, the support for students and their stress around their study permit processing was really, really key. And the government did come through with that, and they did listen to us as a sector. In addition, the federal government had a Canadian emergency response benefit. So this was $2,000 a month that was sent to Canadians who qualified. We were really fortunate in Canada that this included international students. So the definitions of residency for this particular emergency relief fund included international students who had worked the previous year to a certain amount. And many, many had. And so we were really thrilled to have international students included in that, because it was based on tax residency. So if they had worked previously and paid income tax, then they were eligible. And as well, the federal government then, through the summer, became very engaged with all the institutions in the careful management of what we knew would be a flood of international student arrivals once the borders began to reopen. In terms of the provincial government, we had some great announcements. For one, the medical cost for coverage for any COVID-19 cases, regardless of residency, would be fully supported by the government. So there would be no charges to any foreign student that might just arrive and not have health insurance in place or something like that. Then, you know, everybody was clear that if you come down with COVID-19, all your medical costs will be covered. So that was really, really helpful as a stress relief for us, and to ensure that people actually went and got tested if they were feeling ill. And then we had a new fast track immigration pathways. So the provincial government has the right to create new streams of, and so they did one for destitute students. So students who, you know, they're maybe during COVID-19, their parents just lost a business, whatever, couldn't pay for them anymore, and the student really has to stop their academic career. Instead of having to return home, there is now a way that they could stay, get a work permit and a fast track to immigration. And that's on the advice of my office. So again, we worked really closely with the provincial government on this, and as well as students with tech, aquaculture, agriculture backgrounds, and that's for our economy. Given the lack of travel, we're really looking more and more to international students to fill labor gaps. And the other thing that was really important was the consideration by our provincial government of international students as a vulnerable sector. That was really helpful, because that meant that I was included on weekly calls with the government and with all stakeholders around food security, home security, domestic violence, mental health supports. I was included in every call, and I gave an update every call about how things were going with international students at Memorial. And then if we had any issues, the government would help us to solve them. So if we had any arising issues that could be solved either by NGO supports or by government policy, those were taken seriously. So we were really quite thrilled at the level of collaboration. In terms of universities, though, which is where I really want to focus my comments, is the, we had all the same programs that many people have with when they're welcoming international students: pre-arrival programs, arrival supports, orientation, the core advising once the students get here, crisis counseling for when things go wrong, all sorts of academic and language supports, and social programming, networking events, mentorship programs, things like that. But of course, once we switched to COVID-19 and everything became virtual, we have our platform. So we have Zoom, we have WebEx. Our university uses Brightspace, which is a D2L product. And all of that was working okay, depending on the person. There's always going to be technological issues, but this new normal, there was a lot of sort of unforeseen challenges. In terms of some of our advising, it was pretty straightforward, because basically you just have to set up a Zoom call with a student who needs immigration advice. So that goes fairly easily. Tutoring and mentoring supports was a lot bumpier. Like I said, trying to find the right platforms for the various things that we do was challenging, but our university does have a lot of experience, and so they guided everybody to one particular platform and in which everything could be housed. So you can do your calls, you can do your curriculum, everything under Brightspace. We found with one-on-one counseling, there were actually legal issues. So some of our students went to live with, say, an uncle in another part of Canada during the COVID-19. Well, they couldn't any longer access certain services because, for example, mental health supports, a counselor can only has the right to counsel in their own province. That's not a pan-Canadian credential, which we didn't really think about before, but we had to start thinking about. Orientation in a virtual world was different. We found we had really low attendance. People were just students aren't interested in having fun with us over WebEx. They have plenty of WebExes, and they don't need another one with us trying to give them advice. That sort of just-in-time advice, so always being reachable, seemed to work better. And of course, networking and celebrations were no longer possible. In addition, we also raised over $300K to support students, and so far about 80% of that went to international students. So domestic students tended to be closer to home and be able to just go home and study from there, whereas international students were here, they're stuck here, they weren't going home. And so they needed support, in particular with housing rentals and tuition. And as I mentioned, there was some support from the federal government. And now our new normal since September has been the self-isolation programming. So this is a type of programming that I never in my life ever anticipated that I would have to do, to welcome new students at the airport and take them directly to a tiny room and tell them they're not allowed to leave for 14 days. And if they happen to test positive, then they have to stay an extra 10. It's quite a lot of work, quite difficult, very stressful for all of us, especially when students say, like, I got to get out of here. I got to go outside for a walk. And we're like, you're not allowed. Like, you seriously cannot leave. It's really quite strict processes that we've been given and agreed to with the federal and provincial governments. So we do daily check-ins and supports for students with arising issues. We drop off food, every day, twice a day, hot meals, and then other food in the room. We try to keep the cost really low so that students won't avoid going in, so that they'll come directly in. It's only $20 a night, which is basically what they would spend anywhere. And then we have our own public health nurse on campus, and she goes in and does the testing before the students get released. But again, very, very challenging to do this. And we do look forward to the vaccine being rolled out and us not having to do this, which is sort of the antithesis of everything that we do in student affairs with students. It's really the worst possible way to start out your time in a new place, by being in self-isolation. So just a couple things to mention now as I conclude, but challenges are really around staff exhaustion. We're headed into the winter break now, and we don't have a break. There's no way. Students are arriving for the January semester. And so we are expecting students to arrive even on Christmas Day, right? They're coming in when they can get flights, and then we're having to support them through that. So there's a lot of staff exhaustion, and I've continued to highlight that to our university. And yet it's a very specialized role. It's not something that we can trust with just anyone to do. lots of student stress as well. Issues with technology, those are I'm sure everyone that's listening here knows what I mean. Unexpected issues as well as anticipated issues. And then geopolitical issues have also hit, with some students saying that they can't study particular aspects of the curriculum because of it's either the subject matter is either taboo or illegal in their country. And so I think a recognition of I guess the privacy of classrooms here in the university. Professors and classes can discuss many sort of taboo topics that can't be discussed when the students are in their own kitchens at home in their countries. So issues around that as well. And then opportunities. I've been amazed, despite their exhaustion, how creative my staff are. And I'm sure you're all experiencing the same thing. It seems like when we're put to a wall, that's when our creativity increases. As well, as I mentioned, the improvements to both the internal and external collaboration being included in calls and in discussions that sometimes internationalization is isolated from has been really great. And I hope that those things continue. And as I say, I hope in some ways we never return to some of our old normal ways. There's some things that I look forward to changing, but other things like that sort of more humanistic approach of our immigration processes, our federal government, our provincial governments, I've been really thrilled to see that a move away from sort of like, no, international students are there to bring revenue, but to actually look at them as sort of valued members of our society and to give them the right supports. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonja, for your experiences, best practices, and we will continue with Mrs. Liliana Alvarez. The microphone is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody from Mexico. It's not sunny Mexico, yes. It's sunny outside today. And this is, first of all, thanking Pinar and being very grateful to the organization of Eurasia to give Mexico the opportunity to share our experiences in these troubling times for everybody. And hello to Tolga, Sonja, I already said hello. And well, I will start with telling you that how UPE facing the pandemic when Latin America was not ready and did not have an online as part of its strategic planning. It was something that we saw like, okay, someday we'll do it. We're very people related, and we didn't see the need of long distance learning, except for our Spanish language teaching for foreign students. That was the only thing that we did online, and maybe some other online courses, but they were not something that we did regularly. So we were totally unprepared. And I just want to clarify that UPE stands for Universidad Panamericana. Universidad Panamericana is a 3-campus university. Mexico City is the main and largest campus. Then we have Guadalajara, which is the second. It is located in the second largest city of Mexico. And our 3rd campus is in Aguascalientes, which is the geographical center of our country. So they all make sense for us to be located where they are. And very soon it should be opening its doors in January, but it won't until the pandemic allows. We are opening a new campus in the state of Mexico, which will be the largest campus for a private university in Latin America. So I hope we can welcome you sometime in the near future when this pandemic is kind of controlled. We don't know when that will be. As Sonja said, maybe this new reality will be here to stay for a long time. And well, that's who Panamericana is. And we have around 15,000 students in the system. We also have the most prestigious business school in Latin America, which is IPADE. It's it's very famous for its MBA program around the world and specifically in Latin America. I'm going to focus on our student mobility and also on the way that this caught us off guard. We last night we had a meeting with our president, and he reminded us that on March 23rd, we were told to close down the university, and by May, we would be able to open it again. Well, what do you know? Here we are, all closed up, and we still don't know when the universities or any education institution will reopen again, not only in Mexico, but in all Latin America. The pandemic has hit us very hard. I'm really envious of what Sonja said about their health system. We have been very supportive at the beginning. By the time the closing down came, we had our spring break in Mexico, so that's when the faculty was exhaustively trained to go online when students came back to classes online, and we had to go after all our international students that we had here in Mexico and those that were abroad to help them in any way we could. The international students we had in Mexico were very gracious. Some of them were demanded to go back to their home countries by their own institutions and governments. And let's say that 50% went back and 50% remained in Mexico. And we also had to give them support for their home stays because they couldn't get flights to go back home after the semester ended. They ended the semester online pretty well, and the outcome was good. Our faculty has been performing very good and has become even proficient, I could say, in this modality. We have been using Zoom platforms and Meet, and now we are using Apollo 21 to train faculty even faster to meet the challenge, because we are still going to be online for quite some time. Those students that remained here, we don't have insurance, but they have to bring their own insurance. So we were really very close. Part of our staff that is in charge of the incoming students, which is Norma Avila. I know she's listening to us. She was personally in touch with everyone. We sent them health kits so that they would be aware of using their sanitizing fluids and to be careful not to go out of their residences. We use homestays in Mexico. We are not used to having university residencies. A part of our experience for international students is to be with a family so that they can have a full immersion of our language and our culture. That's what we take pride in, our culture. So it was kind of difficult for us. We were very scared that a member of the family would get sick, and then our student would be sick also, but they were fine. And after some time, Norma helped them get a flight to go back home. And the latest students that could get back to their countries were the Peruvian students. Their country did not allow them to go back. That was something really terrible for us, because we helped them to the very end, but they felt lonely, they felt helpless, and now they're safe and sound back home. And our students that were abroad were very happy, even though they could not leave their residence halls. They were very happy to be finishing their semester where they were, even if they could not go out. So it worked. The online system worked. And now we're struggling, trying to have more foreign students to take online courses. We have all our courses now, of course, online, and we have several courses enough for any international students to sign up for an exchange program in English, because we have that was a challenge before 3 years back when we did not have enough English taught subjects. Now we do. So I think our students, our international students, won't have that problem anymore. And our faculty is also using a new, well, it's not new for you or Europe, which is a collaborative online learning system, which is COIL. And but it's relatively new to us, and Norma is training some of the faculty, and she trained herself by the University of DePaul in the United States, and that has become a very useful tool for us because a lot of countries use it, and it's quite simple to use, and it bonds faculty together, and it bonds international classrooms together so the students can interact without having to be present in the different countries. So that has become a very interesting tool for us, and I fully recommend it. I mean, I'm not the leader or near anything of that sort, but it has been a very interesting tool for us. We have to question ourselves whether this, we know the Earth is just the same size, but whether the world has become smaller or larger with this pandemic. And we feel it has become smaller because we are closer together. Look at us now. We are from very different parts of the world, and we are all together in a screen. And it was something that we didn't do, even if we had the tool to use. We just didn't do it. It was easier, and it was warmer and better to meet in person. And I think that will never change. The personal touch would never change. That has been one of our, I think, it's what we are missing. We are okay with technology. We're improving. We even had a larger enrollment of national and international students because we're doing okay. We're doing more than okay. We're doing very good. But personal touch is something that we take pride in, not only in Latin America. Mexicans are very welcoming, and our students are known because they like to party a lot. That partying is part of life, part of who Latin America is, and it's known for. But they are also very serious when they come to study, and they help each other, and they gather in groups. So now they are making groups in the web, which is very nice. And we have had terrible floods in the southeast part of Mexico, and they have made brigades online to help those parts of the country. Even the international students have added themselves to these brigades to help these people. So online is a challenge. Pandemic is something we have never imagined that we could live in. I sometimes see it as a war without weapons because, well, it's terrible. It's something that threatens us all over the world. But it has also allowed us to see inside ourselves, inside our jobs, inside of what we do every day, to do it in a better way, and to become proficient in something that we didn't have in mind to do anytime soon. So you're invited to visit Panamericana. I will add a video of Panamericana when this presentation is over, so that our presenters will have a full view of our university, and maybe Pinar can share it with the rest of the audience also. I did not choose to put it online today because I just wanted to be as we are. I wanted to be in person, just with you, and less images, more of us, so that you could have a sense of Mexican warmth. And behind me, I have a picture of two Mexican peasants, picking flowers, and that is something very natural that we would see in anywhere outside any big city in Mexico. So it's kind of nostalgic for us right now, but it's something beautiful to see. So even if it's winter, we have flowers and we have sun and we have hope that this will end soon. And we will help our international students and internationalization any way we can. And we are not in any way ready to give up any of our activities regarding internationalization and mobility. And well, we hope to welcome you sometime soon. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Liliana. Thanks for your positive messages. I'm sure all of our international educators miss traveling. I think it was the best part of our job.
Right.
So we also received many questions, but we will leave them at the end of of your speech. So I will continue with Dr. Tolga Türker. The microphone is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for inviting me, EURAS. It's a pleasure to be here with such nice colleagues that I haven't met before, Sonja and Liliana. So I'm glad to meet you both. As also, thank you for the audience who managed to take time off their busy schedules to come and join us in this meeting. So Van Pınar and Ayşe asked me to present something on this panel and talk about the impact of COVID-19 on the higher education in the United States. I thought, wow, that's a huge issue. It's a very challenging task because it's very difficult to decide, hey, where do I start? So it's very difficult to put this whole thing in the context. So it was a challenging issue because many things has changed, and it's very difficult to itemize all of them or codify all of them. What didn't change, I can start by telling you that what didn't change was the core mission of the university in the United States is pretty much the same. The instruction, research, and service. These did not change, nor has the need for the advanced education to prepare individuals for a fulfilling life and drive the knowledge economy further. This didn't change. For individuals, also the economic benefits of earning a college degree remains pretty much clear, with COVID or not. The college graduates on average live a wealthier, healthier, and happier over a lifetime. But the higher education in the United States had already had problems in the United States, that we face significant challenges even before the COVID-19. For instance, student completion rates. In the United States, only 60% of all those who started college actually earned a degree within 6 years. The figures are even worse for the minorities, like Blacks or the Hispanics. So there are significant disparities exist in the completion rates. Other disparities could be exist, for instance, in the student enrollment. White high school graduates have a tendency to go to a college much more than their minority high school graduates. And furthermore, the level of the student debt is rising. Repayments was plummeted and creating a potentially unsustainable burden for many students. I can give you this trend in the United States. Since 1978, the tuition rate for the colleges has increased by 1,400%. There is no other sector of the economy that comes to this kind of increase. It's not real estate, it's not healthcare, It's not the technology and development. It is the higher education that saw about 1,400% increase in tuition rates. So obviously, this creates a big problem that what happened to the aspect of service to the community, to the public of the universities? Well, universities have become elite institutions, serving only to a small percentage of the population who can afford to pay their college fees. So none of these emerged as a result of COVID-19. But what we can say is that the pandemic is intensifying these challenges and creating new ones. For instance, students and families are struggling with the impact of campus shutdowns and questioning whether it is worth it to pay for an on-campus experience when much of the instruction is being done remotely. And under these circumstances, the risk of outcome inequities could worsen. For example, we have evidence that lower income students are 55% more likely than their higher income peers to delay graduation due to COVID-19 crisis. And underpinning of all these challenges is the business model in the United States of higher education institution is at a breaking point, that the institutions are facing falling revenues and rising health and safety costs. So in short, coronavirus has confirmed the case for fast and fundamental change. But it also the full part of the glass is that the coronavirus has also demonstrated that the change is possible. When pandemic hit, many U.S. colleges and universities have moved quickly to remote learning and other delivery models. Also launched affordability initiatives, and I will talk a little more about that at such initiatives at the University of Arizona. And universities also found creative ways to support their students. So now what we are seeing is that the universities in general, I'm talking, that are trying to build on these lessons to reimagine what the next 5 to 10 years will bring. So with that in mind, I will pose 4 areas of challenge and 4 areas where the challenge and the change should and will occur in the U.S. higher education landscape. And so for each issue, I will describe a current conventional wisdom and then make the case for challenging it as a result of the COVID-19. So our first conventional wisdom in the United States is that to successfully attract students and maintain competitive national rankings, colleges and universities must be well-rounded. So this kind of obvious that we always see, these universities displaying their national rankings. We are number 10, we are number 6, we are in the top 100, and so on and so forth. And by the way, University of Arizona is not any exception. Is not any exception to that. But these national ranking systems actually emphasize admission selectivity, small class sizes, per student spending, and standardized test scores. And just to give you one example, that the standardized like GRE or GMAT, LSAT, and so on and so forth in the United States is becoming less and less popular because focusing on this narrow set of variables may boost the rankings of the universities, but necessarily without improving their core educational missions. Also using such national rankings and related variables obviously leads to a greater homogenization in the higher education landscape. Instead, the challenge for this conventional wisdom is that the universities are focusing as to start as a result of COVID-19, which make it quite obvious that they need to focus on creating thoughtful differentiation, building on the institution's current strengths and resources, and of course the local context. So the question the universities should start to ask themselves is that what should my institution be known for? And there are many ways to differentiate other than just the national rankings, including the student mix and outcomes, faculty development, research capabilities, facilities, and of course, maybe more important than some of these things I mentioned is the community impact of the university. So to that end, for instance, University of Arizona, in addition to rankings, like the old habits die hard, focusing more on the other strengths that we have. For instance, we have the, like the world's largest mirror lab that produces the almost all of the space mirrors for these space telescopes that looks into the beginning of time, and so on and so forth. So second conventional wisdom is that current efforts are likely to fulfill diversity and inclusion goals in a reasonable time frame. It's a big thing in the United States, diversity and inclusion, and they have been at the forefront of recognizing, the universities have been at the forefront of recognizing and taking steps to foster diversity and inclusion. And many universities feature chief diversity officers, curriculum requirements, training sessions on implicit bias as part of their growing diversity infrastructure. But still, there are sizable gaps exist in this area. College enrollment and completion rates, as I mentioned earlier, for minorities in the US are much lower than for the whites, Americans. Also, faculty composition is even less representative. Only 33% of the full-time professors are women. Also, only 6% of the full-time faculty in degree-granting post-secondary institutions were Black or Hispanic, compared to their 14% and 18% of US population, respectively. So doing more of the same then is not enough. They are necessary, but obviously insufficient, particularly given how the COVID-19 crisis is disproportionately impacting the lives and livelihoods and education of minorities in the United States. Universities should and will start seeking opportunities to strengthen their diversity and inclusion across their institutions, from redesigning their student recruitment to updating faculty performance measurements to account for the significant roles that underrepresented faculty often play in mentoring to the social and academic experiences to postgraduate success. The third conventional wisdom is a little bit more fun to talk about than the first two. In addition to learning in the United States, the higher education institutions must be responsive to a wide range of student wants and needs. Well, at first look, well, there's a no-brainer, like you want to provide a full service. It's not just about going to the classroom and, taking notes and, taking the exams, getting good grades and graduating with a good GPA to get a good job in a good company and so on and so forth. There is more to it, to the campus life, and especially in the United States, there are other things to consider that comes with the instruction and campus life. But in recent decades, many universities have engaged in the so-called student amenities arms race, with expansive offerings in areas such as entertainment, gourmet dining. Like, go to any campus in the United States, you'll find some like gourmet dining things, not just the fast food or standard fare that you can find in a normal community settings, you'll find many much of a diversity and expansive eating opportunities, and of course wellness, is state-of-the-art gyms and so on and so forth. And obviously, higher education institutions would like to deliver an enjoyable experience to the student. And of course, some student services are essential, especially to those related to physical and mental health. But it is notable, the downside of this, opening up or stretching their services. Downside of it is that the cost for student services have risen much faster than the cost for instruction and research in the US. While students surely appreciate things like luxury gyms and other services, we need to distinguish between what students like and what is necessary to serve the core education mission of the university. And given the budget stress of COVID-19 crisis, higher education institutions will eventually want to consider providing fewer and maybe better ancillary services while keeping the broader well-being of the students in mind. And finally, again, the part of the college experience, when you think about it, conventional wisdom is that the best college experiences and educational outcomes are delivered in person on our residential campus. And when you think about college life in the US, you think about the Ivy, the quads, the old main, lecture halls, classrooms, the dorm, tailgate parties, fraternities and sororities, and so on and so forth. These are some of the well-known totems of the quintessential college experience in this country. But it is the remote instruction and competency-based learning that have the potential to advance student success while also lowering the cost. The COVID-19, the impact of it on this aspect is that this crisis hustled even reluctant students and institutions into action. In 2018, about 35% of the undergraduates took a distance education course, which is quite a large number compared to many other countries. But this year, the figure is close to 100%, as the pandemic forced adoption of remote learning. So remote learning, online learning are here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. There's not going to be a change in that demand in the United States, as far as I can see, when the pandemic is over this year or the next year. So to cope with that, University of Arizona, I can give you an idea what we have done so far. So back in March, we decided to think, as a result of the COVID, we knew that it is going to be difficult for our fall 2020 admitted students to come to our campus. So we tried to come up with online options for them to start their college degrees and not to waste any time. Therefore, we created this new campus called Global Direct to prevent the disruption. But on top of that, we realized that it's not just the newly admitted students but who may not be able to be present on our campus. It will also be our current students who will go back to their countries and won't be able to come back by fall 2020. So we extended the options of our online offerings so that these students will be able to take their courses while online, while in their own country in an online format. And then finally, we realized that we can extend this option to students of the other universities who are stranded in their countries and, take our online courses and, transfer these courses to their universities. Or actually, we can, recruit more students to our programs in an online format so that these students can also become the University of Arizona students. The crux of the model is that we can do this in a much very cost-effective way. compared to our main campus programs. The program that we offer in this Global Direct Campus is very much, accessible to many students who will want to have US education, but don't have the financial resources so far. So we come up with two main models for especially undergraduates. One is the customized degree pathways, which will enable students to start taking courses while in their country for up to 2 years in an online tuition structure, and then transfer the credits they earn and come to United States or transfer their courses to another university in the United States, and fully online degree programs delivered by our professors, the same courses that are delivered on the main campus by these programs, and give the students a unique in-person college experience. Istanbul Aydın University is one of our partners in Turkey and the region that for instance, in this model, students can start an online degree, but can use amenities and facilities of the Istanbul Aydın University with no problem. And we also have a tendency to think that online education, is a type of course delivery model where there is no socialization, there is no touch, and so on and so forth. We hope to overcome this problem with these, local partnerships. Students can meet each other at a campus or any kind of environment, so they know there will be a hub for them to go and socialize. And to these online programs, we are capable of adding 1 term of study Arizona and have the students come to United States and spend 1 term, 1 semester in the United States at our main campus at the same tuition price they pay in their home country, in Turkey or Bangladesh or in China, and so on and so forth. And maybe as effective as the tuition rates for these programs, the diploma and the transcripts are as same as main campus. So to that end, we are expanding the understanding of higher education, that we are trying to redefine what the student needs in terms of, while taking their courses. Like I said, we established partnerships across the world, and Istanbul Aydın University is one of these partners, but we are not tied down to comprehensive universities like Aydın. We are also partnering with student housing companies as well as co-working spaces, which will provide students the similar amenities like a place to socialize, Wi-Fi access, and so on and so forth. Library access, study areas, and so on and so forth. But students, of course, do not have to choose a partner locations or a partner university. So we try to cope with the COVID-19 as University of Arizona in this manner. And I see that there have been some questions on the side that are about the, like how many students did you lose? Or what's the rate of the students ending up coming to your campus? I can say that we didn't lose any students because we gave these students these options to start their studies. And we also gave them, they have the option of deferment. And some of the things that my colleagues have mentioned, Sonja talked about these extensively about, like how the new normal is, like greeting the international students and putting them in a quarantine. We did that too, but in a much less, we didn't do it as much because most of the students didn't come to our campus and started their studies in an online format. So let me stop here and, gave the stage to back to Pınar and see if there are any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tolga, and also very innovative initiatives you also built at University of Arizona. I'm sure you will have many questions, and maybe some of the university will be interested in partnering with you. But our president has joined us, So we would like to give the floor to Associate Professor Mustafa Aydın, the President of EURAS and EURI Summit.
Buradaki temel amacımız içerisinde bulunduğumuz pandemi sürecinde partnerlerimize ve üniversiteler birlikte ürettikleri tecrübeyi birlikte paylaşmak, çözüm üretmek.
Our main goal during this webinars is to come together with our partners and our member universities and to share and exchange our ideas and our knowledge with one another.
Bugün de çok değerli konuşmacılarımızın katılımıyla değerli bir ve faydalı bir webinar yapıyoruz.
And also today with the valuable participants, our panelists, we've been having a wonderful discussion at this webinar as well.
Ben bunun için özellikle hem Amerika'dan hem Kanada'dan ve Meksika'dan katılan değerli konuşmacılarımıza ve diğer katılımcılarımıza katkılarından dolayı çok teşekkür ediyorum.
So first of all, I would like to thank our valuable panelists from America, from Canada, and from Mexico for their valuable contributions, and of course to all our participants here with us today.
2000'li yıllarla beraber sınırlar ortadan kalktı artık. Dünya farklı bir tarafa doğru evrildi.
At 2020 now, we don't have any boundaries between countries. The world is expanding to a new phase now.
Pandemiyle beraber de zaten teknoloji çok daha güçlü bir şekilde günlük hayatımıza girerek bu mesafeler hepten sıfıra indi.
And with the pandemic, these distances are just disappeared completely, especially with the technological developments that we have to face altogether.
Hatta her zamankinden daha çok artık birbirine yakınız.
And obviously we are much closer to one another at this time.
Tabii biz eğitimciler olarak eğitimde yeni bir dönemden bahsediyorsak sormamız gereken ve aramamız gereken en önemli cevap bu süreçte neler yapmamız gerektiğidir.
As educators, if we are looking for some solutions during these hard times, we have to ask some serious questions.
Tabii değerli konuşmacılarımız ve katılımcılarımız çok farklı yöntemleri dile getirdiler, getirecekler de.
Of course, our valuable panelists have been mentioning very important issues and topics, and they're going to continue to do that as well.
Unutmamız gereken en önemli unsur farklı eğitim modelleri, dijitalleşme kavramları ve bu sistemlerin belki her kurum, her üniversite kendi naturasına göre, kendi yapısına göre bir sistemi, bir yönelimi hayata geçirmesidir.
The important thing is to implement new education models, adapt to the digitalization, and of course, according to the nature of each university, to implement these according to their needs and to their own culture.
Tabii burada sadece konu öğrencilerimiz değil, aynı zamanda akademik personel de, hatta idari personel de bu çalışmaların bir parçası olmak zorunda.
Not only the students, but also the academics and even the administrative staff has to be a part of this process, this change.
Çünkü tecrübe şunu gösterdi ki belirli yaş grubunun üzerindeki hocalarımızın bu adaptasyon sürecinde biraz zorlandıklarını görüyoruz.
Because the experiences showed us that especially our academic staff, how can we say, a little bit older, had find it difficult to adapt to this advanced technological platforms.
Gençlerin çok daha kolay adapte olduğunu, hatta teknoloji kullanma bakımından birçoğumuzdan da önde olduğunu fark edebiliyoruz.
We now see that the students, the youth is much more adaptable to the technology and they are much better using it in their daily lives.
Bizlere burada düşen eğitimciler olarak o teknolojiyle vermemiz gereken programları, içerikleri nasıl vereceğimizi ortaya koymaktır. Hangi yöntemleri kullanmamız gerektiği.
As educators, we have to decide which models we're going to use when we are giving these classes and these programs to the students in these new platforms.
Bundan 10 veya 20 yıl sonra bugünlerin değişimin başladığı bir dönem olarak bahsedeceğiz.
In 10-20 years, we're going to talk about these days as the time that the change has started.
Ve her zaman olduğu gibi daha iyiye ve daha verimli bir zaman dilimine daha uygun şartlarda, daha gelişmiş bir şekilde doğru hep birlikte ilerleyeceğiz.
And of course, all together, we're going to move forward to a more advanced, more enhanced, and more productive future all together with learning from one another.
İçinde bulunduğumuz dönem dünyanın sadece belirli bir bölgesini kapsamıyor. Bütün dünyayı kapsıyor.
This the thing that we have now is just not specific to a region. It's about it's happening all around the world.
Bütün dünya, bütün sektörler, eğitim sektörü gibi bütün sektörler aynı problemle karşı karşıya.
Everyone around the world, every sector, including education, is facing the same problems right now.
Dolayısıyla hep beraber bütün dünya olarak yola çıkmış bulunuyoruz. Hepimiz karşılaştığımız problemleri nasıl daha iyi düzeltebiliriz, nasıl daha iyi çözüm bulabiliriz diye hep beraber bir arayış içerisindeyiz. Hep beraber umutluyuz.
So that's why we are, all of us, everyone are on the same ship. We are going to the same direction, and we are all, everyone is looking for some answers and for some solutions.
Artık hep birlikte yeniliğe açık olmak durumundayız. Ve genç beyinleri geleceğe doğru şekillendirmek görevimizdir.
We have to be open to new ideas, and it's our main job and main obligation to prepare the new generations for a different future.
Ve biz eğitimciler, dünyanın önünde olan, dünyaya ışık tutan eğitimciler olarak da bu aydınlanma çağında gereken görevi yerine getirmek zorundayız.
And as educators, again, who's giving light to all the others who are in this process, we have to be somewhat of a light to them and provide the way to them for a different future.
Her zaman söylediğim gibi eğitimciler hem siyasilerin, hem ekonomistlerin, hem farklı sektördeki bütün çalışanların önünde yürüyen, ışığı veren kişilerdirler.
As I always say, educators are the people who bring the light to the path for the politicians, for the economists, and for all other sectors, and just pave the way for them.
Biz ışığımız ne kadar güçlü olursa arkamızdan gelenler de orada o kadar rahat ilerleyebilirler.
The brighter the light that we provide for them, the better path, the better they will walk through that path.
Bu düşüncelerle tekrar bütün katılımcılarımıza ve değerli konuşmacılarımıza şükran sunuyorum.
With these thoughts, I would like to thank and extend my gratitude once again to all our participants.
Başarı ve umut dolu bir akademik yıl diliyorum.
I wish everyone a successful and hopeful new academic year.
Avrasya Üniversiteler Birliği ve Avrasya Yükseköğretim Zirvesi Başkanı olarak da bir sonraki etkinlikte buluşmak üzere bütün katılımcılarımıza ve konuşmacılarımıza saygılarımı sunuyorum. İyi bir toplantı olmasını diliyorum.
I look forward, as the president of the Eurasian Universities Union and Eurasian Higher Education Summit, I'd like to once again extend my gratitude to everyone, and I hope to meet you again, once again in our next webinar. Thank you for being with us today.
We would like to also thank to our president, Associate Professor Mustafa Aydın, for his opening remarks, and we will be continuing with the Q&A session. Let me start with the first question. So there are also some of them are already answered. Our colleagues from Greece are asking how many international students you have per year pre-COVID and now. So I would like to turn to you, Dr. Sonja, and we can actually ask this question to all of our speakers, because I think there's also, some countries have turned it into an opportunity and received more students than before, but some countries has dramatically affected from the COVID-19. So let's start with Dr. Sonja, and then we can continue with Liliana and Dr. Tolga.
Sure. Our overall enrollment increased this year, which is not unusual during a pandemic, because people, when things are virtual, sometimes if somebody's working, they're able to do an extra course or two because it's virtual now. And so So in some ways, our enrollment increased. In terms of international students, many of them deferred because of issues with study permits not being able to be processed in their countries. So for this year, our numbers stayed the same for international students. So we had 3,500 last year, we have 3,500 this year, but we were anticipating growth. So we expect that by next September, when we do anticipate that we'll be back fully in person, that we will have a larger numbers, and we have to prepare for that.
Thank you. Liliana?
Well, this past semester, we lost around 90% of international students because they were not allowed to travel, and they did not enjoy doing distance learning. I think they thought that it was going to be for a short term, so they decided to wait. And this year we have regained an 80% of enrollment with international students. And as I mentioned, through the COIL courses, we have given better access to them, and in general, an 80% increase in enrollment. So we're doing good.
Thank you.
So I will echo the same similar trends. I cannot say that we have decreased enrollment. We, of course, obviously have decreased presence on our campus because of the COVID-19 regulations. But in terms of numbers, we are pretty much the same. About 10% of the student body at the University of Arizona are international students, which corresponds to about 4,000 students. But for the next year, if you can compare if you can do the point in time comparison, that we do have about 55% more applications for fall 2021 compared to 2019 December.
Thank you. So I would like to turn to Dr. Sonja again. We have questions also from Yanis again. Do you get students through the EU-Canada program? What nationality is the majority of incoming students from? And also another question came from Susanna. Would you number some of the most common challenges that teachers face while online teaching at Memorial University? If so, has your university developed any strategy to overcome those kind of challenges?
So first of all, in terms of students coming from Europe, we do have a lot of students coming from Europe, but mostly at the graduate level. And yes, they do come with funding, sometimes EU, sometimes Canadian, and under those programs. But in terms of our top markets, those would be Bangladesh, India, Nigeria, Iran, US, China.
Thank you. So another question again to you, also to Dr. Tolga. Based on Canada and USA pandemic situation, which month of 2021 you expect the universities will be open again? I think there are still many uncertainties, but you know, but you can at least give a, you know, enlighten our audience if you have any receipt from your governments.
May I go first, or was it just for?
Please.
Okay, so University of Arizona has never closed for the 2020 to 2021 education year. We have been open, but with different delivery models. Okay, so UFA has never closed. We have had in-person courses, and we have had some student presence on our campus. I cannot verify that because I haven't set foot on campus since March or something. But as far as I hear, that there are some students. The only difference is that, for instance, after Thanksgiving, this was a decision that's been made back in June, that the administration leadership said, you know, like we're not going to have any in-person classes after Thanksgiving. So we are fully online, but the campus is open. And campuses will be open in the spring 2021 too. If you ask me, it is crazy. The whole thing is crazy. Why didn't they close it? But it is open with much less, you know, activity. I can say that. But there are some in-person courses.
Thank you. I would like to turn to Liliana. Liliana, Ibrahim Muhtar asks, Can you say something on how the COVID-19 affected in terms of internet students in Mexico that makes up in general based on, the 1920 academic year?
Well, the international students remained online, and those that returned home finished their semester online. Last semester, they also enrolled online. It did affect some of them. I mean, we had a small decrease, but now they have enrolled again. So, because we are not going to be open, and our government will not allow opening until maybe by the next fall semester, probably. So that's it.
Thank you. And let me continue with Juan Luis Meregal's question. How do you imagine the future education once the COVID crisis is over? Are we going back to the pre-pandemic situation, or we will experience long-lasting innovations, and which these innovations might be? I would like to ask this question to all of our speakers, but we can start with you, Liliana.
Thank you. I think that long-lasting innovations have just come to stay among us, and we just foresee a hybrid education from now on. I mean, we will remain with courses online permanently, and also back to school those that can make it and that want to be here. So with the rigorous measures that will have to be made from now on, I guess. Mm-hmm. That's how we foresee it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonja. Sonja, we can continue with you.
Yeah, I think that what I see as a real benefit is that many institutions around the world and many governments around the world that didn't consider virtual learning as really legitimate and have changed their minds through this, and have now are looking at virtual learning as really viable. So this is really important. I mean, I do acknowledge the digital divide, and I think that's brought up by someone, maybe by Asa here. But it is really important for virtual learning to be considered on par with in-person learning. Our faculty weren't as experienced as they could have been, partially because it's just much easier to just show up in class and be able to throw up your slides and talk through, and there's a lot more planning and a lot more work on the virtual side for sure, at least in the first few go-arounds. But I hope that that's one thing that stays, is that recognition of other countries for virtual learning. Because us, like University of Arizona and others, we do have a real strength in online learning, and we do have entire programs available for online learning, in particular around the maritime, because so many of the people that would take our courses would be seafarers and out on platforms or whatever, and so having that ability for us to be able to offer our programs globally to people who respect virtual learning, I think has been a really key shift that we've appreciated.
Again, I'll have to echo what my fellow co-panelists have mentioned. Mobilization from the international education perspective, mobilization is going to change. It's hard to say what's going to be like, but we won't have the same maybe mobilization levels. But the collaboration is not going to be affected, and it's going to we'll find more and more innovative models to collaborate with one another. So I think the change is going to be a good one for us as international educators.
My colleague Ayşe Özkan has asked a very interesting question. So we can ask this question to you, Dr. Tolga, since you also have micro campuses. So how about the question of digital divides? Remote learning now and post-pandemic blended and online learning models may not increase access and inclusion if we do not address the question of digital divide between countries and between social groups in the same country.
Well, from my experience, it's not even a concept. It's not even it may not lead to greater inclusion or access. From my experience, it does lead to greater access. By just looking at the amount of students who enroll in our courses, it is quite obvious that we are talking about much more manageable time schedules, flexible course delivery, flexible tuition payments, and so on and so forth. But I can agree to some extent that hey, it's going to take some time for the dust to settle, and for us to make a more down to earth, more rigorous research on the true effect of digital transformation in higher education. But from my experience, I can see more access to our courses, which used to be inaccessible to large amount of people because of the location challenges, visa challenges, financial challenges, and so on and so forth. And with that increase in the course enrollments, I can say that we have more students from many other parts of the world, including Bangladesh or Pakistan, or countries in Africa, and I am pretty fond of it, I must say.
I would like to turn to Liliana. Susan asked you, considering the fact that students use the commodity of online platforms to copy their answers or read the material on their desktop while being asked or tested, it is really hard to evaluate or grade them objectively. So I would like to hear the experiences or obstacles that the teaching staff at your university face while online evaluation and grading of the students, and how do they manage these obstacles?
Okay, at first, the performance was very bad. They had very low grades. They were not used to online evaluation, neither the faculty nor the students. But on the second period of evaluation, they became more proficient, and they have been very honest, actually. So it has been a very good experience, a very enlightening experience for our faculty and our students to just be themselves and answer on the spot. And they have designed a specific way of evaluating the students, in which they have precise time for each question. So we don't foresee like a problem of copying or just dispersing. We are getting better performance. So I guess that's the way that it has been done. It has been, we've gone through a redesigning evaluation process that students have answered well to.
Thank you. I would like to turn to Dr. Sonja. Our executive board member, university representative, Professor Fabio, asked a question. Do you think online and classic education can be taught as two stages of an integrated teaching? I mean, rather than trying to do the same things either online or in presence, can we think to provide two integrated ways of education?
Yes. I mean, that's the job of the central unit of the Center for Institutional Teaching and Learning, and they've really been tested. We've always had a center that looks after virtual learning. We've been fortunate that way, as I mentioned. That is, as a university that is very used to having online learning. But their role was really kind of sidelined before. They would, help professors put a course online when they wanted to. But all of a sudden, they've become absolutely central to the university. And so through their guidance, and so their leadership is learning, and then trying to disseminate new ways to us. But I do think that we're in for some significant shifts, which are good. But not every, you can't expect every professor to be able to keep abreast of the developments and the new technologies and the new ways of proctoring and invigilating, all of those things. So we're really relying on that central unit that we have to disseminate all that information to us and lead us to the right new places that we need to go.
Thank you. I think we can have, just take maybe the last two questions. I would like to turn to Dr. Tolga. Susanna asking you, would you please elaborate shortly and simply the concept global direct in terms of education? Because this term is new to me as a teacher, and I didn't really understand it from your presentation.
So, okay, it's my bad. It might have been confusing and may sound like it's something like a universal concept. It is not. Global Direct is basically another campus that we established. Like Istanbul Aydın has different campuses across, maybe Istanbul or maybe in Turkey. We do have different campuses like the University of Arizona North, South. We have my University of Arizona in Mauritius, University of Arizona in Phnom Penh, Jakarta or Peru, and so on and so forth. So Global Direct is just something that we have established as another campus of University of Arizona, which delivers online courses to international students. So this should not be confused with our other online courses, which is Arizona Online, which is more directed towards the domestic audience, domestic students in the United States. So it's just a platform, another campus that we refer internally and externally to this platform to refer to the, this is the online platform we use to deliver our courses. It's just a name that we come up with. And this is where the students start their courses, like for instance, the customized degree pathway students from Rwanda, or a full degree student from Mexico can start their degree as a Global Direct campus student, and then they can transfer between different campuses. So our vision is actually to come up with, if the undergraduate school education is like 4 years, to give the students the ability to travel 4 different locations throughout their studies, 4 countries, 4 years, 1 degree. Students starting in, let's say, Mauritius can travel to Istanbul another year, and then to Czech Republic, maybe then to Tokyo, and finish up with these studies. That's our vision. 4 years, 4 countries, 1 degree.
Thank you so much. I think it's much clearer now. So a question to all panelists, the final question before we wrap up. Is there any overall strategy in higher education at governmental level of countries across the world in cooperation with ISCED, ISCED of the UNESCO, to create a better approach in terms of improving the situation as whole? Or one of you can answer the question.
I can go if you like. In Canada, we don't have an overall education federal government body. So the answer to that would be no. At the federal level, so for all of Canada, international education falls under a number of different departments, depending on what you're talking about. If you're talking about multiculturalism, then it falls under heritage. If you're talking about its economic impact, it falls under the trade, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. If you're talking about the ability of students to work and be part of the labor market, then it falls under the Department of the social insurance numbers, and so every different, the education itself is a purview of the provinces, and that's a challenge in Canada. In fact, I recently contributed a chapter about international education policy, but that is a challenge of Canada, is everything is decentralized to all the provinces, and some are smaller than others. My province has only 1 university and 1 college to look after. So are they going to look at WHO? Probably not, because they're, it's so small. So it'll be interesting to see how Canada moves forward with any sort of education initiatives based solely on education, because the government itself doesn't have a mandate for education. So I think it's similar in the US.
No. In Mexico, we are, on the contrary, we are centralized. We have the Board of Education for the whole country, and whether we are private or public. So we do expect new changes in terms of online education to become formally recognized by the government. And that would be magnificent improvement in terms of national, international education worldwide. Yeah, that would be what we would expect.
Here it's pretty much decentralized too. In the United States, it's so much decentralized. This is actually quintessentially decentralized system in the world. We are so much decentralized that the University of Arizona is actually decentralized in and of itself too, in terms of the kind of value or the applicability or the feasibility of online education elsewhere. So it's hard to talk about one strategy towards that direction, but at the University of Arizona Global, we are working closely with the Center for Higher Education Research. We try to keep track of our information and try data so that we can come up with more like a reasonable causal relationships in terms of how to that can help us how to improve the online education. Our first tactic, not exactly as a strategy, is that by collaborating with all these institutions across the world, we hope to transfer our knowledge, our know-how to the partner universities, so that and same time let's learn from our the practices of the partner universities and bring that information and know-how back to our home institution.
Thank you so much. On behalf of EURAS, Eurasian Universities Union, I would like to thank to our distinguished speakers for joining us today, accepting our invitation and sharing their best practices, also their experiences with us. And as you know, COVID-19 pandemic has changed our lives entirely. The higher education system is one of the most affected sectors, which is recovering relatively fast as compared to other sectors. All the universities have been working hard on projects to improve their infrastructures for distant, blended, or other types of formats, and to develop the associated competencies of their human resources. As Turkey, we believe in working together to overcome the COVID-19 challenge and to build a better future. And international cooperation and international education, however, can only thrive on the basis of equality, mutual interest, and shared values. This is the message we send to our friends and partners and allies. So thanks. I would like to thank to our participants for joining us today and staying with us till now. And I would like to also give some important messages if they haven't attended at the beginning of this webinar. We shared that the virtual summit will be held at the beginning of March. So due to the safety of our community, we decided to organize it virtually. So it will be held in a virtual platform. So we would like to see not only our distinguished speakers, but also our members, participants. Also, the submission call for proposals are now open. So you can just check and visit your website if you would like to submit a presentation or a panel together with your partners or colleagues. You can also submit a panel. And also you can just attend as a visitor or exhibitor. There are also many options, even though it's a virtual one. Actually, we get used to attending these virtual activities also during the COVID-19. And the next webinar will be held on January 14 in collaboration with S Group, our new partner. And we will be hosting distinguished colleagues, educators from European institutions this time. And we will be continuing these regional webinars in the spring semester with different formats. We will be sharing our spring semester calendar soon. So our colleagues, participants can follow us on our website or on our social media accounts. Please, all the information, all the pictures will be also uploaded on our social media accounts. Please do follow us. Also tag us if you would like to share anything with us. And I would like to, ask our speakers also to send me their presentations so I can disseminate them among our participants. And we will be also sharing the recording. So if you just miss some part of this webinar, you will have a chance to watch again or share with your colleagues. And for those who are celebrating I would like to, wish a happy Christmas and happy New Year, because we will. It's our last webinar for this year, and we will be, seeing each other hopefully right after the, New Year vacation. Although we will be all at home, but I think building, emotional resilience is the most important thing, I think. So I think this is why internationalization and international education become more important and crucial during this period. And we would like to, hear your opinions, suggestions for the next webinars. And take care and stay healthy. And bye-bye.